last 2 weeks, I've been doing this medicine called Capirona. This is another of the sacred tree essences. It's been a really interesting experience. You kind of get, it depends, I guess, but sometimes you have to give them a little time to get into the sort of same vibratory space. This one sort of came on slowly, and I didn't think it was doing anything, much like the Huari Caspi, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago. I kind of thought, oh wow, it's just like an energetic thing, and that was it. And it felt good, you know, I felt good about it. It wasn't a bad thing. But there was things happening which I didn't really notice at first. And what was happening was it was like thought patterns were changing, like subtle energetic things were happening, and I wasn't really aware of it. But when I started becoming aware of it, it was during my morning energy practices. And you see, what happens is I do this pretty serious tantric work, which I've described in a bunch of videos, which is sort of energy work, moving energy around the body. And what I've been doing recently is I've got really into the sort of Taoist practice of, it's known as bone marrow Nikung, which is promoted by Mantak Chia, which is similar to some of the simpler practices that I was using previously, but it's much more physically oriented, which is kind of cool. And the funny thing is I had really taken the imaginative practices a long way, and so the Nikung kind of it sort of pushes, it's using the imagination and it pushes it into the body at the same time. So I've been using that and it's been really powerful. But one of the things that I discovered was that I kept finding that I was moving to sort of more abstract places in my meditation, that I would tend to go into mindlessness or thoughtlessness. And then, you know, as I said a couple of weeks ago, going into that sort of sine wave of the, like, pushing in love and this kind of thing. But there was also this other element of sort of going into the void, which I previously described as sort of riding the lightning, but it became really quite pronounced. And that was when I started thinking, oh, wow, I wonder if this is the Capirona, which is sort of informing this sort of change in the vibration. And again, what was happening is the energetic structures were getting really, really powerful. And I wasn't sure if it was the Nikung or if it was the Capirona. But I decided that the Capirona was having this sort of powerful effect. And then after about a week of this sort of wondering if that's what's happening, in one meditation in particular, I was moving energy around. And typically with tantric practice, what you do is it's sort of like a sensual kind of thing. And what I found is this time I was doing it, and as I was moving, and a lot of this is like spiraling energy around. And what I found is in my imagination, I found that I was in like some kind of museum. And in the museum, like it was almost like one of those like Louis XIV, like Louis XIV artwork, which is all very beautiful and ornate. And as I was moving energy around, it was sort of taking on these forms in a museum of gold and jewels. Now, this often happens is as you build energy, you often build these like crystal and jeweled structures, which seems odd unless you read the literature. You know, the Varnaya Buddhism is all about the sort of like the diamond lightning bolt, right? So there is this sort of gemstone kind of idea. Even Om Mani Padme Hum, which is the Buddhist mantra, is all about putting a jewel in the lotus. So there's this concept of jewels and flowers, and somehow they mix together. So anyway, I'm in this museum and I'm moving energy around. And then as I'm doing it, it's just really, really beautiful. It's a really, really beautiful experience. I'm moving this energy around. And then as I have all this energy and I'm seeing like these sort of filigreed, and it's weird because I'm looking at my hands here, but it sort of moves beyond your hands. Your hands are like a sort of projection point, maybe, or your body generally is like a projection point for the imagination. And it becomes this, I started seeing these, hold on a second. This is my cat, Nevi. She wants to climb up here. Hello, Nevi. Say hello. As I'm doing this, I go into this state of mindlessness. So what I'm doing is, it's just a sort of state of observation. So all this beauty has been created and I just move out from it. So now this imaginative structure has been created and I move out. And I just sit there in awareness. And this beautiful, ornate, imaginative object is just emitting energy. And I'm just sitting there. And it's kind of like you move into like your spirit body and you separate yourself from the whole the whole imaginative, emotional, mental construct. So I spoke about this in one of my other videos. There's this great meditation by Ron Clark, which is called the Archaeos meditation. And in this, he navigates through the physical, astral, and mental body. And part of this is just becoming aware of these different bodies and how to navigate through the bodies. And what was happening is, as I was sitting there in awareness of this beautiful filigreed museum structure, I became extremely conscious of the interfaces between the mental body and the astral body and the physical body. And I was able to see like the effects rippling through from one body to the next body. I'm sitting there, but I'm sort of sitting in the spirit body now, sort of separate from everything. And I started thinking to myself, this is what happens is we get attached to our thought structures, to our emotional structures, to our imaginative structures. And this is funny because, I've been doing a lot of this imaginative energy work, and you get attached to that too. But you see, that also is just part of the illusion. So this is also, it's just pulling away from everything. I'm able to see it's all nonsense. It's all stuff we get attached to, but that's not who you are either. So what happens is it becomes a sort of I am moment, which is something which a lot of people talk about. But what does that mean? I am. And this is something Ramana Maharshi spoke about quite a lot, is just asking yourself this question, who am I? Who am I? And, that never really resonated with me. Like, how do you work that? How do you work that the who am I thing? This is one way of working it, is identifying yourself with your physical body. Is that who I am? Okay, I'm not. Okay, no, it's my energy body. Is that who I am? No, it's not. Okay, or is my emotional or imagination body? Is that? No. Spirit body. Is that how I am? Well, that starts feeling like maybe that's who I am. And in that body, you're actually separated from these structures which sort of weave you into this reality. So this is a really powerful and interesting moment, which has been going on now for about 7 days. Now, the interesting thing about this is after I had that experience, it started happening in a bunch of areas. So one night, I'm sitting on Facebook just before bed, and I saw this Renoir painting, which is a woman with a parasol. And this is a beautiful painting, and it's all lush green. Renoir is one of the Impressionists, and it's green with a woman and man. And apparently it was painted in Renoir's back garden when he just bought a new house. And it looks like it's sort of the wild, beautiful flowers, and it's blues. It's all these different tones of blues, greens, and sort of flashes of orange. And I had the same moment. I was looking at it, and it's like I separated out and just... this is kind of like what happens with LSD a bit. You sort of separate out and you see all the relationships perfectly between the colors and why you could see why became obvious why this is a masterpiece and why the relationships with the colors worked. I'm like, this is amazing. Next day, I'm hanging out with the cat, with Nievi, the cat. And all of a sudden, I become aware of her muscular structures and I can just see it. And my mind's like gliding through the bone system and the muscle system, and I'm able to separate out all these relationships, and it's a lot of knowledge. And it's all this stuff, the interface between humanity, the world around us, is really complex, but we're unaware of it. We're always unaware of that relationship because it's probably just too much information. So that was really cool. Next day, I'm sitting in the computer, and I was getting kind of bold with the Capirona. So I was doing like 10 drops. I would wake up, take 10 drops. You're supposed to be like 3 drops 4 times a day. So I just woke up, took 10 drops. I can handle this. I'm like, it's cool. So I took the 10 drops. I'm sitting at the computer and I can feel it coming up really strongly. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go outside because, I can feel this energy. Everything's beautiful. So I leave and I walk outside. This was the day after the Renoir experience. And now I live in a beautiful sort of estate here, and we got a canal and all these beautiful flowers, and it's amazing. And so I start walking along the canal, and lo and behold, it looks just like Renoir's painting, but in its own special way. And there's these amazing plants. There's flowers, and you see what happens. A lot of the flowers have these, they've got like sort of flowers which they're like vines almost. They spiral around other flowers, and they use these flowers. This other flower is using this other flower as a support to sort of strategically build its architecture. And as I'm walking along, all this becomes self-evident. And then these bees fly in. And everything becomes like, I can see the whole structure of like nature and how it works. And I'm like, yes, this is great. I'm like, wow, this Capirona is amazing. This is like an amazing experience, right? So that was a really Really powerful day. And that was going on all day, just incredibly deep insights into nature and reality and just beautiful. Then the next day I got up, I did the same thing again. And I was sitting at the computer because I usually work on the computer. I'm sitting at the computer and it comes up and it's just really powerful. And I go outside for a bit, I come in, and then I'm just sitting there. And I literally spent the whole day just like vibrating, just like, wow. And like just having this amazing vibration, just like sort of like in waves, just going through the body. Now, the funny thing about this is this medicine on the website, sacredtreeessences.com, a few people have mentioned like it really activates Kundalini. Somebody said had a mercurial sort of vibe to it. And you know, I got that. Like my crown chakra has felt ice cold. It just feels cold up in the top of my head. And you know, I've had the nectar coming down. That almost feels like liquid silver, or it's almost like somebody pulling like a silk ribbon down through your spinal cord or something. It's just like sensual sort of vibe going through. Now, it wasn't quite like that, but it was just I could just feel the crown chakra like it was liquid. And that was going on for several days. I had that today. Now, I've been doing fasting too. So I've been fasting. I have been intermittent fasting for about a month and a half, which I'm really enjoying. But I've also been doing some just regular fasting, like 2 days, 3 days kind of fasting. And what's interesting is when you fast and you're doing these essences, they become really, really powerful tools. So today's my last day. This is the last day on Capirona. It's been really, 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 really great. I think it's one of my favorites, actually. The thing is, they're all my favorites. You know, the last round of medicines I've done, it started with Tortuga. I went to Shiwawaku. Tortuga was just unbelievable. Shiwawaku was like amazing. I went to Punga Amaria, which was a little less spectacular, but I think I need to go back to that because I probably didn't do enough of it. The Huari Caspi was mind-blowing. And this one has been mind-blowing too, in many ways. In some ways, it's sort of LSD-like, you know, in that kind of awareness. And there's a lot more in there too. There's a lot more. So I've done 5 of these medicines over the last few months. May go back and cycle through all of these again. There's a couple of the sacred tree essences I haven't tried yet. There's 2 or 3 of them I haven't tried. There's 3 of them I haven't tried, maybe. There's Kumaseba, there's Remo Caspi, and I kind of want to double back and try Ayayuma again, because that was like a difficult one for me, so I kind of want to go back and try that again. These essences, which are simple, they're reasonably cheap, you know, they're like $40 or something. But they're worth the money because, you know, they seem like little bottles and $40, but you know, I've spent $300 drinking beer, like in a bar, you know, easily. And it doesn't change your life, right? I mean, so this is the thing, you do this, it lasts for a month, and it just completely modifies your entire perception of the way you should be living your life, and valuing things which should be valued, and understanding relationships, and also really promoting the understanding I've had of like some of these meditational states and how to, and it's like stuff I've been doing already, like moving into that spirit body stuff I've done before, but actually getting a sense of the interfaces between it has been really, that's knowledge I can use. That's knowledge I can use like all the time. Because now when I do it, even if I'm not doing Capironi, I'm going to be identifying those interfaces and moving through them. And that probably has been the most valuable experience, because the truth is you can achieve altered states, and not just altered states, but higher states of being, more optimized states of being just through meditation. But it's good to get a helping hand, you know. Most of us don't have fancy gurus, or don't want to spend 12 years sweeping his floors waiting for the important lessons. I think for me, you can get a lot of these lessons that you need from these sacred medicines like Capirona.